Look, I'm not going to sit here on camera and pretend like I have life all figured out, but if you're Gen Z or even millennial, honestly, you need to hear this. Working harder is not going to get you out of this. Think about it. I know you've seen everywhere online or even in person the advice they keep telling us, just like grind more, stay late, put the extra hours in. But have you noticed how none of that actually moves the needle in your life? You clock in early, you stay late, you actually lock in like they say to do. And what do you actually get for it? If it even gets noticed, maybe a little shout out in a meeting, maybe a slightly nicer performance review, but for the most part, that paycheck, yeah, that stays the same. The one that barely covers rent. And this is the elephant in the room that no one wants to address because it sounds depressing, but it's the only honest way to start this conversation, whether you like how it sounds or not. This economy literally stopped rewarding effort. The old formula where you work hard, move up, eventually be stable, yeah, that's gone. It's not broken, it's extinct. And 99% of people haven't even emotionally accepted it yet. They're still climbing a ladder that doesn't go anywhere. As a 26-year-old living in this economy, I had to learn this the hard way. I thought if I outworked people, I'd win. I thought the grind itself was the differentiator between me and the rest. But it doesn't matter how fast you run if the track doesn't actually lead anywhere. It became clear to me that escaping the job cycle isn't about working harder. It's about changing how you make money at the root nowadays. And the different lanes of making money in this economy is what I'll discuss within this video, so stick around. So let's take a moment to get real for a second and ask ourselves, who are the people that are actually getting ahead right now? Because not everyone is necessarily struggling in this economy. I'll tell you this, they're not always the smartest, they're not always the most talented. They're the people who figured out leverage before the rest of us did. We were raised on labor, we weren't raised on leverage. We were taught that the way to win was to be a great employee, climb the corporate ladder, and hope that eventually, one day, we get rewarded. But when that income is tied to your presence and not your output, you're capped by default. If your body isn't clocked in, your income doesn't come in. If you're sick, your income doesn't come in. If you take time off, your income doesn't come in. That isn't freedom, it's golden handcuffs. And the moment you understand leverage, the moment you see how money actually moves now, a job stops being the answer and becomes the stepping stool that buys you time to build something else. And what I'm describing here isn't just a theory, that reality is already here. In the last couple of years, companies have started to care less about degrees and more about skills. Why? Because output matters more than pedigree. Meanwhile, cost of living, especially rent, has outpaced wage growth in most major cities. So just existing costs more than ever, and our paychecks haven't kept up. The top slice of society, the people actually winning, isn't winning because they grind 10 times harder. They're only winning because assets compound, even when they aren't aligned. And the wildest part is that half of Gen Z expects to juggle multiple jobs just to survive. We're just trying to survive in a system that was designed to reward inputs in a world that now rewards mechanisms. So a job is never the villain, it's just linear. And the world is a non-linear place now. For me, I had to swallow this reality the hard way when I built a YouTube channel past 300,000 subscribers and I still couldn't sustain myself the way I thought I would. I made the mistake of assuming audience equals leverage, but if you don't have the mechanisms behind that audience, it's just attention. It doesn't multiply, it doesn't scale, and it certainly doesn't guarantee anything. So I left the job world thinking the leap would set me free. Spoiler, it didn't. I still had to learn leverage. I had to stop thinking in terms of hours and start thinking in terms of outputs. That shift, that one shift, changed how I moved entirely. So escaping the job cycle isn't about quitting and hoping for a miracle. I want to get that part straight. It's not about motivational slogans or aesthetic hustle montages like the one you see on Instagram. It's about changing the actual structure of your value. Like I mentioned, labor is linear. 1 hour in, 1 hour out. Leverage is non-linear. 1 hour in, infinite repetitions of that hour. That is the entire difference between I'm drowning and I'm building. You can't outgrind a system built on leverage. You can't outwork automation, and you certainly won't out-hustle AI. There are only 3 leverage levers that matter: automation/code, media/distribution, and capital. If you're starting at 0, capital isn't the starting lever. So the only realistic escape path is automation and media. You build little machines, and then you attach distribution to them, because machines don't get tired. Machines don't need motivation, and they don't need days off like humans would. Mechanisms scale. So for lever 1, code/automation. Automation is essentially the entire process of identifying repeatable tasks that you perform on a regular basis and systematically removing them from your direct involvement and physical presence. That's really all it comes down to at its core. And it doesn't have to be some incredible, fancy, complex, or sophisticated setup. Automation can be as straightforward and as simple as setting up a basic trigger or workflow that automatically routes the right person into the right sequence or workflow without you having to manually play email ping pong back and forth all week long. And here's exactly why that matters so much in the bigger picture. Human beings simply cannot perform at their full capacity and maximum potential every single day without exception. We naturally get tired and fatigued. We lose our focus and concentration. We get mentally drained and exhausted from the constant demands. We get overwhelmed by the pressures and stresses of daily life. But machines and automated systems don't experience any of that. And when you successfully move those recurring tasks off your personal plate into reliable systems and mechanisms, your overall value and output becomes consistent and dependable even when your mood, energy, or motivation isn't at its peak. That's what real leverage looks like in action. That's the fundamental difference between being trapped in linear work and building something that scales. Now, lever two, media and distribution. Now, media serves as a way to store your skill, your knowledge, and your expertise, and then it distributes all of that while you're not physically present or actively working. It's literally the process of cloning your value and packaging it into a unit or format that can run, operate, and deliver results without you being there in person. A single conversation you once had with someone can be transformed into a video that people watch hundreds, thousands, or even tens of thousands of times over the course of months or years. That's exactly what I mean when I talk about leverage in this context. And when you intentionally create evergreen pieces of content, not just trend chasing junk that expires in a week, you build what I call digital real estate that continues to pay future rent long after you hit publish. This is precisely how trust scales over time. This is precisely how pipeline scales over time, not by posting more frequently or churning out higher volumes of content, but by strategically posting the right pieces that compound in value and impact over time. Now, lever three, capital. Capital becomes important at a later stage in your journey, not right at the beginning when you're first starting out. Money has the power to multiply and scale systems that are already working and improving, but it cannot magically transform hopes, dreams, or unvalidated ideas into reality. If you take your hard earned money and throw it at something that hasn't been tested, refined, or even proven to work in the real world, that's not strategic investing. That's essentially gambling with your resources and crossing your fingers for luck. Once you have already established leverage through automation, media, and other mechanisms that work independently of your direct time and effort, capital then becomes the powerful accelerant that takes everything to the next level. It buys you back precious time that you would have otherwise spent doing things manually. It buys you speed by allowing you to move faster than your competitors who are still bootstrapping everything. It buys you scale by enabling you to reach more people, serve more customers, and expand your impact exponentially. But you need leverage first before any of that matters. Always build leverage first, then lay your capital on top of it. So the realistic escape isn't about dramatically quitting your job tomorrow and burning all your bridges behind you. It's about quietly and strategically building your exit strategy while you have the financial oxygen and stability that your current job provides. You keep the job, not because you fundamentally believe in the job or you think it's your long-term future, but because it buys you precious time, resources, and mental bandwidth you need to create real leverage on the side. You start small and replace just 20% of your income with that leverage systems, and then you grow it to 40%. Then you eventually match your full salary. And then at some point along that journey, you suddenly realize you don't need anyone's permission to leave anymore. Freedom isn't some dramatic leap into the unknown, it's a gradual crossfade from one system to another. It goes labor first, then hybrid phase, then fully levered independence. We're literally the first generation in modern history that witnessed the traditional career ladder completely break down and glitch out right before our eyes. And instead of sitting around pretending like that old ladder still functions the way it used to, or trying to convince ourselves that things will magically go back to how they were, we're intentionally and strategically building our own alternative exits and pathways out of that system. Because the fundamental rules of the economic game have shifted dramatically from how hard are you willing to work and how many hours can you put in to how much tangible output, value, and income continues to flow and generate even when you personally stop working and are actively present. That's not some kind of unfair and cosmic injustice or broken system that we should complain about endlessly. That's actually a massive strategic advantage and opportunity, but only if you recognize it and understand it, and leverage is early enough in your journey before everyone else can catch on. The process of escape isn't loud, flashy, or attention grabbing in nature. The process of escape is actually quiet, consistent repetition of the right actions and decisions over an extended period of time until one day it suddenly looks to the outside world like you simply vanished and disappeared from the traditional system entirely. And that's what I'm doing here, documenting my entire journey through this channel, so subscribe and make sure you don't miss anything. And comment down below, if you could automate one part of your life or work this month, what would save you time the most? You could be surprised with how much of your life could be automated and how much time you could possibly save per day. I'll be documenting the systems, the mistakes, and show you the ugly wins in real time. And again, I appreciate you for watching all the way to this part, and I'll see you in the next one.